And that moves us on to item number 9, our superintendent's report. Dr. Ross.
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the board, and our community. We have very excited about a lot of great things going on in our school district. Those that may be wondering, and we have some other state champions. The Chapin cheerleaders had a conflict with today, so we will recognize them on January the 8th as well. But a lot of great things to showcase in our school district. We are a system answering 3 critical questions each day. Why are we here? Our vision question. How do we accomplish our vision? And then what are the outcomes? Why is that we love and grow our students. How is that we are focused on academic, social, emotional growth and development. And then our strategic plan outcomes is that we each day have a future where we're looking that every student feels loved in our schools, and a future where every student has demonstrated academic growth in our schools, measured by our 4 performance goals in school climate, teacher administrative quality, student achievement, and gifted and talented strategies. It's the growing season in School District 5, and how do we measure that in our strategic plan? We look 3 points during the year. We use measures of academic progress to see how our students would do on the SC Ready exam if it was taken at the point of administration. In the fall of last year, you could see how many of our students were off level versus the number of students who were on reading, on grade level in elementary and middle school English and math. If we were looking at last year, this would be the reality. But it's the growing season in School District 5, and you can see just the amazing growth that our teachers and our support staff and our administrators were able to receive this year. So while we have a ways to go, we're very proud of the progress of our teachers and staff. On the high school level, one of our critical indicators is the number of students who are going to graduate on time. When they enter the 9th grade, 4 years after entering the 9th grade, graduating across the stage, not only with a diploma, but college and career ready, ready for life. And so we monitor that each week. You can see our strategic plan goal of having 90.5% of our students graduating within that cohort on time. As we track this every week, we're currently at 85%, but we are looking to find the names behind each number, the story behind each name, so that we can meet those needs of those students so that they can see success. When we look at how our school district is held accountable, we have multiple measures from college and career readiness, graduation rate, SC Ready in English and math, our passage rates on the end of course exam for Algebra 1 and English 2. And I'm very proud. It is the growing season in School District 5. We have an increase in all categories with maintaining and graduation rate. That is a testament to the amazing work of our educators in this school district. It is not easy to come by, but they're truly creating the conditions for growth for our school. And so in that time, I just want to recognize, again, all 2,740 employees that make this possible, these results for our students, and those that we will continue to do in order to meet the objective so that every child feels loved in our schools and has demonstrated academic growth in our schools. So with that, I will now ask our CFO, Ms. Madison Wilkerson, to come forward to give our monthly financial update.
Good evening, Madam Chair, members of the board, and Dr. Ross. Thank you for inviting me here tonight to present the financial report for the month ending September 30th, 2023. I'll start with the revenue report. As always, we break this up between local, state sources and other financing sources. Through September 30th, 2023, our local sources are in line with budget and the prior year at this time. As you can tell, interest income is already exceeding budget, and we do expect this to continue with the high interest rate market that we're in currently. For our state sources, we do expect an adjustment from our 45-day numbers, and this will be reflected on the January monthly payment to districts. But overall, through September 30th, we are slightly below budget from the state revenue standpoint, and we will continue to closely monitor this, and as we receive adjustments throughout the year, we'll continue to update you. We did, however, receive our Tier 1 reimbursement from property tax relief in November, which was earlier than we normally do. Normally that comes in December, so we're thankful for that. And then our Tier 3 reimbursement starts in October. But overall, year-to-date through September 30th, about $29.6 million, or 12.75% of budgeted revenue, which is in line with the previous year. For the expenditure side, through September 30th, 2023, our expenditures did exceed revenues by approximately $7.5 million. This is normal for this time of year. Really through December is when we notice that our expenditures are starting to exceed our revenues each month. This time of year, we do dip into our reserves to continue to maintain cash flow and to make payroll and pay all invoices. But overall, in line with the previous year, $37.1 million through September, or 15.98% of the total budget. I'll be glad to take any questions.
Any questions? All right, thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Wilkinson. Madam Chair, members of the board and our community, I wanted to give an update on our community support services. Before we go into that and I introduce Dr. Harris to make the introduction, I want to just share why we engaged in this initiative. What you see are two graphs or two data points of the 2001 SE Ready reading and math scores for all the elementary schools in the state. And what's very interesting of these scatter points is that with 71% accuracy, if I know the poverty index of a school, I can determine its reading level. With 65.5% accuracy, if I know the poverty index of a school, I can determine its math achievement level. We see this relationship between poverty and academic achievement. What does that mean for our school district? It means that if we look at the poverty index of our school district, we have some of the most affluent communities in the state of South Carolina, but we also serve some of the most impoverished communities in the state of South Carolina. As a result, one size does not fit all in terms of an educational model. We must address the needs of all children. In the growing season, it's about creating those conditions where all children can succeed. And we were able this year, through the work of many in our community, many partners, to create in one of our communities, an area that we saw a lot of challenges, a memorandum of understanding between the owners of Harbison Gardens Apartments and the management company, NHE, of Harbison Gardens, to work in that community with those students to ensure that those families' needs were met so that we could see success during the school day. Why was that important? That was important because of all the interventions that we're doing during the school. If you look at the waking hours of a student during that school year, they're in school within, if you have 7.5 hours a day for 180 days. But the amount of time they're out of school in the community is 81%, 82% of their time. They spend the majority of their time out of schools than in schools. We felt in community support services that it was time for us to look at ways that we can get into that out-of-school time, after school, summers, weekends, holidays, and ensure that our students had supports. As we started to look at the housing situations of our students, we realized that there were a tale of two communities. We learned about Section 8 housing, which by federal regulation provides access to housing vouchers, provides resident support services, provides community standards of conduct. And if all of these are supplied, we've seen areas in our community where our children and our families are doing well. However, there's also Section 42 housing, where there is no responsibility of the owner to provide community standards of conduct. there's no responsibility or obligation to provide resident support services. In these areas, we were seeing a lot of challenges. It's not about who's there, it's about what supports and what conditions they're in. So we decided through the work with one of these Section 42 housing, that they would work with us on community standards of conduct. This board encouraged us through a grant to initiate an opportunity to provide the first resident support service coordinator to go into that community and provide those responsibilities to those families. That first ever resident support service that this board approved was Mr. Julius Scott. And we would like to share how he was able to help us and continue to work to meet two very critical goals: establish partnerships with out-of-school providers for academic, athletic, and artistic and service enrichment programs that are safe, with trusted adults, and allow student choice, and that he could help serve as a resident service coordinator in these Section 42 properties to support our families in need. And so with that, I asked Dr. Harris to assume this in his department. So I would like to bring forth our Chief of Student Services and Planning, Dr. Harris, for introduction.
Thank you so very kindly, Dr. Ross, members of our entire board, and members of the community. Certainly super excited to introduce Mr. Julius Scott. As Dr. Ross dubbed him as the resident coordinator of our community services, support services department. It is an additional feature of our area in student services and planning, and we're so very excited to have this as a part of the area and a part of this school district, but more importantly, and so excited to have Mr. Julius Scott on board and on team. He's former principal of the Dutch Fork Elementary School, and since there or about July 1 has really, in a very true sense, hit the ground running in terms of meeting with a number of different persons and groups, and even giving us an opportunity, Dr. Ross, an opportunity to kind of tag along in some of those meetings, to be a part of the conversations and the discussion that have already been held in a very short period of time. He's also been dubbed as a SCALE Fellow, which is the South Carolina After School Leaders Empowered Fellowship, which is something that has been sponsored and hosted by the Riley Institute at Furman. So we are, again, so very happy in a very short period of time to have had Mr. Julius Scott to come aboard, and he, if he would, in his own way, to come this afternoon and this evening and to share with us more in terms of some of the work and the initiatives that are at play in the community support services area. Mr. Scott.
Thank you, Dr. Harris, members of the board, and Dr. Ross, thank you for this opportunity. Last spring, Dr. Ross approached me with the opportunity about the community support services position, and I have to tell you there's power in story. Dr. Ross and I go back 20 plus years ago in grad school, but he did not know my personal story. So when he approached me about this, I had to share my story with him, and if you don't mind, I'd like to do the same with you. So when I thought about the position and all that it entailed, I said, Dr. Ross, this really resonates with me for a lot of reasons, because my life story really is no different than the life story of the students who live in many underserved communities. I'm from a family of 6, 5 older sisters. My mother's clinically diagnosed as schizophrenic. She's been in and out of mental health institutions my entire life up until this point at age 46. Because of her situation, my siblings and I not once lived in the same household. My parents were married, but because of my mother's condition, they separated. So my dad took 2 of my sisters to New York City to raise them. My grandmother raised 2 of my sisters, and my older sister was 18-ish or so, so she was deemed able to do her own thing, and I had an aunt who took my mother and I in. Now, mind you, my aunt who took us in was a domestic. She cleaned houses for other people. She wasn't well educated herself, and she was taking care of 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 people. So I lived in a house, no joke, 10, 11, 12 people in a single house, 3-bedroom house, sometimes 2-bedroom house. We moved at least 9 or 10 times before I graduated from Keenan High School. I saw my dad for the first time when I was 19 years old. When I laid eyes on him, he was in his casket. He had died of a massive heart attack. And I don't share the story with you to think, oh my gosh, it's a sob story. Oh my gosh, we feel sorry for you. The reality is, somebody throughout that period of time said there is something in this kid. No, his mom wasn't on SIC. She was never a member of PTO. She didn't attend any parent-teacher conferences, but there was something still we found in this kid. In that process as well, when I was in 4th grade, I played organized sports for the first time in my life. I won't forget his name, Coach Wingate. I played for the Belvedere Cardinals. I sucked at baseball. I'm telling you, I did. But Coach Wingate not only paid for me to play baseball, he literally took me home every single day after practice. And because I played baseball for the Belvedere Cardinals, he then introduced me to the basketball coach. And I began playing basketball as a 5th grader. That led to me playing basketball in middle school and high school basketball for Dreer High School and Keenan High School. So when I think about this whole process, again, this is not just a job for me, it really is a passion. And so when I wanted to share this with you, I've been really moved by a book that anybody that's been close to me have heard over and over and over again. It's entitled, What Are You Known For? And if you had to think about that question, you think about most organizations, if you think about Chick-fil-A, customer service, would y'all agree comes to mind? They are known for that. It is my pleasure. It's not a matter of where you go in Columbia or Georgia or, well, I don't know about Alabama. I don't know how many Chick-fil-A's are in Alabama. But you get my point. It doesn't really matter where you go. You know what Chick-fil-A is known for. And so with that, I submit to you, there are things that we want it to be known for, and what are we currently known for? And so here was our goal. After talking to Dr. Ross and company, we wanted to be known for multiple things: building healthy relationships with families and community partners, ensuring every student has access and opportunities that lead to promising futures, providing wraparound services on-site to neighborhoods, and pursuing what is possible and not what is traditional in mobilizing communities. And here's why this is important. I don't know how many of you really know about Harvest Gardens. We read about it, we hear the stories, but to actually provide wraparound services in that neighborhood is a game changer. And so what have we been known for since July of 2023? Before I get to the block party, there's another story that's not in here to date, but when we got started, we had a chance to work with Human Resources and the Call Me Mr. program and Irma Middle School. And in that partnership, we were able to ensure that we had a number of middle school students who attended their summer program and had access to mentors. Through that process, we were able to provide 23 students with mentors, back-to-school book bags, and back-to-school shoes. You might think, well, that's not a big deal. Well, if you got 23 inner-city kids who are not sitting at home, not wasting time, that's a win all around. And as a result of that, Mr. Joseph said to me, hey, Scott, he said, as a result of us doing that, we now have several students that are asking us, are we going to offer this summer program again? And of course we will. Since that time, you may have heard, there was a block party out at Harvest Gardens. Many people didn't think this was possible. And the notion of going into Harvest Gardens to have a block party, there was no fear for my life or the life of other people there. There were no threats. There was no gang violence. Nobody was shooting. No one was drinking. It was absolutely a grand time. You saw laughter. You saw joy. You saw people having an opportunity to have their neighborhood celebrated. And on top of that, we had an opportunity to provide resources to families. So we had Medicaid, we had Healthy Connections, we had a wide range of services that parents were able to take advantage of. So that was July or September. And as a result of the block party, a couple of things happened. Our D5 adult education program hosted a program back in November. They're going to host another one again tomorrow, Ready by 5. Let's think about this. If we're thinking about educating and growing all of our kids, they also have hosted a program and will be hosting another one in January to address the needs of kids before they get to our elementary schools. And that's a direct result of the block party. We said that we wanted to ensure that we are engaging with families. So we hosted a family engagement event this past November on the 16th. And the whole focus of that was for us to continue to establish relationships with families. And so our goal for that particular meeting last month was to talk about the hopes and dreams for families. If you think about it, we all have hopes and dreams for our children. Doesn't matter if you're black or white, doesn't matter if you live in Chapin or not, we all have hopes and dreams. And so we were able to listen to what are the hopes and dreams that these families have. The reality is, they're some of the very same things that I have. I have 2 daughters. I want my 2 girls to be safe. I want my 2 girls to be loved. I want them to be cared for. I want them to do well. They're no different than the parents who live in Harbison Gardens. And what we heard on that day was, man, this is a great opportunity for our voices to be heard. Coming up in just 2 days, we will have another another parent engagement in Harbison Gardens this coming Thursday. And there's a reason why I'm bringing this up, because we talked about after-school opportunities. So I want to share a little bit of information, and I'll be out of your way. As of last week, 12/4, there were 209 students who live in Harbison Gardens, 73 elementary, 61 middle, 75 high school. Of the 73 elementary schools in that subdivision, only 26%, or 19 out of 73, are engaged in an after-school program. 19 out of 73, folks. But we're fortunate, as you can see above, we have 3 organizations that have agreed to partner with us. Irmo Chapin Rec, Universal Church Outreach, and the Y have agreed to accept our students into their programs if we can provide transportation. We've received multiple grants that will allow us to do so. So I mentioned we have 19 students involved. That leaves us with 54 students that we need to place in programs. Between all 3 after-school programs, we have the capacity to place all 54. So this coming Thursday, what will happen is, in work and collaboration with our social workers, we're making personal calls to say, we need you to come out. Are you interested in after-school opportunities? Particularly if you don't have to pay for it, and we can provide transportation. And I can tell you, we have a pretty strong number of families that will be in attendance, and we will have members from each of those 3 organizations on hand to tell a little more about their specific programs. I will also mention at the high school level, well, I'm gonna go to the middle school level, we have 45 students that live in Harbison Garden. 26% of those participate in the Hive after-school program. We just received as a district the Stronger Connections grant that will allow us to do multiple things. One, we'll have the chance to hire 3 additional staff members for that program, which allows us to add more students to the after-school program. And so we know for a fact, based on the folks there, that we have a waiting list. We just couldn't add any students because of the numbers. And then the final thing I'll share from the high school standpoint, of 73, as we mentioned or did mention, we have a partnership with the Mungo Foundation, generous donation, but Young Men United provides an opportunity for 10th, 11th, and 12th grade males who have an opportunity to go to college to be provided with a mentor, job shadowing experiences. And so out of 27 students, 5 of those actually live in Harbison Gardens. So when we tell you that the work we're doing, it does matter, and thanks to you, we are absolutely making a difference. The final thing I'll share is in March, we will have another block party. In the spring, we have another host of folks that want to attend, and our primary goal at that time will be to have summer program vendors in attendance. As parents, we know this. Your quality programs, you have to get your kids signed up very early. If not, they will not be admitted. And so we just think by having this in March, we'll have some of the best programs available, also with an opportunity for our families to be engaged. So the reality is we want to be known for community. We want to be known by the community for what we do for the community. Any questions?
Thank you. Have any questions? Ms. Huddle.
Well, first of all, thank you that was a wonderful presentation, and appreciate the numbers and giving us a good idea of how many children. I'm curious, the owners of Harbison Gardens, what's their reaction and feedback, and have they offered any help or assistance? How's that going?
That's a great question. So I work exclusively with their property manager. She and I talk on a weekly basis, literally. And I'm on campus on their site on a weekly basis. And so I'm typically given the names of families that there might be some issues with in the community. And she'll say, hey, Mr. Scott, here are some families that are on our radar. Don't know if they're on your radar, but if so, is there anything that we can do to help? Once I get that information, I'm immediately getting in contact with our social workers, because typically they're on that front line. They know quite well who's who and who's what. And so we've been able to offset some issues on that end. I will also tell you, by being out there, I've had a chance to meet their on-site security officer, who has shared with us that crime has actually been down within the last 6 months within that community. And they brought up some matters to our attention. From a bus driver and buses standpoint, he just recommended that buses not be dropped off in the back because of camera and lighting. And so because of that conversation, we got the bus route changed, and just an opportunity for things to be visible. And I believe that's a direct result of me being out in the community, because otherwise that conversation would not have existed. So to my vantage point, they have absolutely been working alongside us. Thank you.
Any other questions? Mr. Satterfield?
Sorry.
Yeah, I don't really have a question. I appreciate your presentation. Excellent job. I hope that you'll come back and keep us abreast of your progress and,
sure.
and some of the great things you're doing, and help us, give us enough information so we'll know how to best help you in your endeavors there.
Yes,
we
sir.
appreciate that.
Yes, sir. I would like to be back. I will tell you, I've already been contacted by another district to say, how in the world did y'all do this? And we want to do the same. I think we are setting a precedence that by what we're doing at Harbison Gardens, we will be able to extend this beyond our time there to other communities in our district.
Well, thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else? All right, thank you very much.
Madam Chair, members of the board, again, thank you so much for supporting this initiative and seeing the hard work and the great work that's being done. That concludes the superintendent's report, and I stand for any questions.
Any questions for Dr. Ross? All right, seeing none, we will